friends. Let me introduce myself. My name is Marla. I have a YouTube channel. Evidently, not a very frequently kept up YouTube channel for this whole summer, and in particular the past 30 days. Okay, if any of you have been worried about me, I do apologize, but you had heard me say on the past 2 or 3 that we're really in a busy season. These past several weeks have been super busy, and we've had some things going on that we don't normally have going on. In particular, I've been helping Lauren, my oldest daughter, Lauren, that lives about 30 minutes from me. She teaches school. She's a 3rd grade teacher, and she has twin boys, and I've not shared before that her boys have autism, but they do, and that's been a steep learning curve for all of us. We knew when Ridge was 18 months old that he had autism, and we had his diagnosis, and we went ahead and had him receiving services from the public school system of occupational therapy, which, you know, like fine motor skills and speech therapy and those kinds of things. So we knew that long ago that Ridge certainly did have autism. He had, you know, when we first began to suspect, you know, Lauren's an educator. She recognized the signs. So, you know, when you do a Google search for signs of autism and your child presents 20 out of 20 of the symptoms, then that's pretty obvious. But we've not dealt with a child with autism before in our family, so this was a really, like I said, it's been a steep learning curve for us. Okay, the twins are 4.5 years old now, and because Ridge was already in the school system, that put him in the developmental pre-K class at the school where Lauren teaches, and that was fine. But up to this point, Dean has not presented with anywhere near as many obvious signs of autism as Ridge has always shown. And we've always known that he's, you know, that he's on the quirky side and had some traits that we didn't think were typical. You know, it's hard to talk about without making it seem like you think your child is less. Okay, I see a UPS behind. I'm sitting in the parking lot at the bank. Long story, Ben's inside the bank. His debit card was lost. So anyway, he's in there doing that. And so the pace of our life is such that I thought, okay, this would be a good quiet moment in the vehicle. Maybe you can't hear the fans blowing too much, the AC. But we've always known that Dean had exceptions, you know, but some of it we were wondering, okay, is he picking up some behaviors from Ridge, who is, you know, he's very, very much visibly on the spectrum, because the things like no eye contact or very little. He makes a little bit, and for a long time he wouldn't respond to his name. He does now, and we see improvement literally from month to month. We see improvement in him, and his vocabulary is now increasing. He's not nonverbal. He doesn't like to talk, but he does talk. So when Dean started school for just the regular general education, normal pre-K classroom, well, that lasted the first week of school. And because Lauren's an educator, and she, you know, as a fellow educator, she did not want to continue to do to Dean's teachers what was having to be done to contain Dean. So at that point, it dawned on all of us. Okay, Dean has okay, Dean's enough on the spectrum that we're going to have to see if we can get a better placement for him, because in the general education classroom, and with 18 kids, 1 teacher, and 1 full-time aide, one of the adults had to be one-on-one with Dean all the time. and the other adult took care of the other 17. Now that'll tell you something. Now here's the thing. Dean is the happiest child you've ever seen. He loves school. He loved being there. He loved doing all the things, but just completely unaware that he can't just do his own thing. You know, the whole, we sit down all at our seats and we do this together and we walk down the hall in a line. None of that registers with him, and I think it will with some time, but it's too much. It's too much in a regular classroom unless he were to have a full-time aide dedicated to him. So we now are in the process of, Dean has gone through several evaluations. He does have a doctor's diagnosis now, as well as Ridge has always had since he was 18 months old, an autism diagnosis. But the school system has had to go through weeks and weeks of, well, it's just their policy and they have to be careful, and I understand that, but as with all things bureaucracy, it feels like it's taking for living ever for the steps to be completed. You know, his evaluation, and then there's going to have to be meetings and discussions, and then they're going to have to decide what is available to him and where his best position placement would be. Now, the thing that causes Dean and Ridge to not fit nicely into regular categories is that they are extremely intelligent. Their issues are social. The intelligence part blows all our minds. When we went to the Smoky Mountains on our vacation, Ridge, they both love to play with Play-Doh, and they both do this. They form alphabet letters out of the Play-Doh and they spell things. On our vacation, Ridge sitting at the dining room table playing with his Play-Doh, we walked over and he had spelled out, now mind you, we had not gone yet to Ripley's Aquarium, but he just saw a billboard or something of Ripley's Aquarium, and he had spelled out Ripley's Aquarium correctly with the apostrophe in Ripley's. Okay, I don't know of many 4-year-olds who can do that, because that's not something that we tried to get him to do. These are just things. Oh, he also spelled out Reagan's House of Pancakes, Dollywood, easily. He spelled that one out. And Dean was doing some of that too. They can both recognize, and Dean reads aloud at a 2nd grade level at age 4, and he's been doing that for many months. They have good math comprehension. Their intelligence level is so high that it causes us to really want to advocate for them to be in an environment that will continue to build their academic progress, because obviously, you know, they know all the colors and the shapes, you know, the basic shapes, and they can count to 10. They can count to 500. And they can count by 2s, and they can count, oh, I thought that was my daughter, but it isn't. They can count by 5s, count by 10s. These are things that we have not tried to get them to learn. They just do it. And with their play and with what they show us and how they're able to write. Dean can write his name. Ridge can, but he doesn't care about it that much. He's not that interested. So, because Dean is not attending regular class during this time where they're trying to get him placed appropriately, I've been going and watching Dean 1 or 2 days a week, and then there's a precious girl from our church who is able to come help, and then Thomas is able to get his schedule so that he's been working double shifts 2 days in a row so that he can just be home with Dean 2 days in a row. It's been a major thing. Okay, now we still have Olivia and Ryan and baby Isaac in the house with us. That continues to be you know, wonderful and a challenge. You know, that requires some extra effort to keep that flowing smoothly, because, you know, we're all humans and we're not all going to think the same all the time. So, you know, we have to work through those things, and that's a little tiring. Evidently, when I'm tired and I'm doing a lot of things to help other people, my immune system is not what it ought to be. I mean, I have autoimmune issues. So I have had 3 cold viruses in a row, but thank you, Jesus, it feels like I'm coming out on the other end of it. I had several days of complete laryngitis, during which time I was home and I was willing to do some videoing, but I had complete laryngitis, like down to the smallest whisper ever. All right, so that's been going on. We still do gladly interact with and help Ben's parents, who live 5 minutes from us, as frequently as we can. And there's just been it's just felt like so much. Sam and Joel still live at home because they still are in college, and that's fine, that's understandable. But because they're full-time students and don't work for a salary yet, then we're helping them with automobiles and all the things. And nobody says we have to do this, but we want to do this. We do this gladly. Now, my daughter Mallory, she's the second oldest. She has 3 children. They are gearing up for some very exciting life changes coming up soon, and I'm not going to share that with you yet. I will when they think it's time. I will. But that whole thing that they've got going is it's a lot. It's a lot for your brain to digest and figure out and all that. So in the meantime, I have quickly done a few thrift stops in between things and when I can, and I have gone ahead and taken a lot of things out to the shed. Okay, still running errands. Ben had come back to the vehicle, and then I had to run a couple of errands myself, which by running a couple of errands means I had time to go to how many did I go to? 2 thrift stores. One, that last one I went to, I never go unless it's Friday or Saturday, because that's when they have half price day, and today is Wednesday. But the whole time I was shopping in there, I was like, okay, I'm shopping, half price day. And so when I got up to the counter and it was $22, I said, is it not half price day? And they said, no, it's Wednesday. I was like, well, okay, so I'm all thrown off. Ben isn't normally off on Wednesday, but he had a dentist appointment. So anyway, so while I was shopping, I just listened to the clip that I had done previously, just before this one, and something I said made me feel like I needed to rephrase it. We are smitten with our autistic twins. We love these children. Couldn't love them anymore. I said it's hard to describe where they are in terms of their development and what they're able to do and not able to do. It's hard to describe that and not make it sound like we think they're less than, because we don't. We don't think they're less than. We just know they're wired differently. Their brains just work in a different way. So I wanted to clarify that in no way do we think that our beautiful boys are anything but wonderful. And they're wonderful just the way God made them, and they don't need to be fixed. We don't need to pray that they just suddenly are not autistic anymore, which it would maybe make things, definitely make things easier for them and for us in a lot of ways, because this world is set up for people who are neurotypical. And their little brains see things and process things very differently. And we're learning that. And we're learning I now know, I feel honored and blessed that I now know the signals, and I know the things that are specific just to them and what they need and what they mean when they say or do a certain thing. Ridge prefers to just give clues to what he needs rather than speak it, and he is speaking more and more, but Ridge will come up and take your hand, and if he comes up and takes your hand, he's wanting to lead you to something that he needs. And I've learned that, and that's him, and that's wonderful. You know, when he was still 3, I hadn't heard him say Miggy, which is what all my grandchildren call me. Miggy is my nickname that my daddy gave me when I was born. My daddy and lots of my family still calls me Miggy, so that's my grandmother name, because it sounds a lot like Gigi or Mimi or something, so I'm Miggy. That's who I am. I always have been. So I love to hear my grandchildren call me by name, but for Ridge, he had not done that before, and it's been about a year ago that I was standing talking to someone else about something, and Ridge was doing what he often does, which is if he trusts you, and if you're one of his favorite people, which I'm honored that I am, he was just standing by my leg and just kind of holding on to me and kind of rubbing across my knee a little bit. Just, you know, he wants to make contact. You know, he likes that connection. And I wasn't paying attention to him whatsoever, because I'm used to him doing that. So we're standing there, and I'm having a conversation like I do with all my people in my world. I'm using my hands, and I'm talking emphatically and everything. And thankfully, I shut my mouth long enough to hear him as he walked off and had his hand still kind of lingering across my leg. He just looked back a little bit and said, Miggy, and just walked on. I broke down and cried. That was the first time he had ever said my name, and he said it perfectly, which tells me he's perfectly able to talk if he so chooses. And he does talk and say more and more things as time goes on, and we're very happy about that. But I see autistic traits in some things that I had never seen it before until we had these children, till my grandchildren came along. But things that I didn't recognize as being on the spectrum, I can see a few of those traits in my own children as they went through childhood and the teen years. I see a few things that I could say, well, you know, that could be. There could be something genetically running through us, and, you know, who knows? I'm not going to get in a camp that says autism is caused by this or caused by that or not caused by this. I still think we don't know. But I agree with our pediatrician who, my grandchildren's pediatrician is the same wonderful human who was my children's pediatrician. And so now he has the honor of providing medical care for my grandchildren as he did for my children. And when we were discussing Dean, the day that we were discussing Dean, I was with Lauren, and we had both twins with us. And Dean is so busy with his own interests and own agenda during the time that we were talking to Dr. Chupp. We love you, Dr. Chupp. During the time we were talking to him in the small exam room, Dean turned the lights on and off at least 7 times until the doctor just gently put his hand over the switch and said, no more. And because I was trying to keep Dean kind of interested and occupied, I was giving Dean orange Tic Tacs out of my little Tic Tac packet, you know, little box thing. And at a certain point, I looked over at the wall, and there were 3 old school phone jacks that had the little square place that you can put the little phone jack thing into. And there was an orange Tic Tac in each of those. I reached down and I couldn't get them out, and I just had to tell Dr. Chubb, I said, I really hate to tell you this, but there's a Tic Tac in all of those phone jacks and I can't get them out. He said, don't worry, we haven't used those phone jacks ever in this exam room. Don't worry about it. So, you know, the kinds of things that my grandsons do are so hilarious, and it's exhausting because you can't quite guess what they might or might not do next. And if you recall, during some of the shed building videos, which I'm getting back to soon, yay, in some of those videos when the twins were there with us, we had them each on a leash, and that might just blow the minds of every person listening. But we call it a love connection because we love our children so much, and they're fast and they're strong and they can outrun me, I'll tell you that. We keep them safe, and that's one of the ways we can keep them safe. I mean, you can't just expect to hold hands with a child for a couple of hours in a row when you're in an outdoor setting like that, and there's lots of things, and we want them to have their hands free to be able to play and do things. So, you know, what are your choices? You can set up a little fence, a little corral. We do that sometimes. Or you can just have them attached to your person so that you know they're not going to run down the block 5 houses down before you can catch them. You can't leave that to risk. You can't leave that to chance. So, you know, we do things like that. And some of the times that I have had Dean with me by myself, there have been a couple of times that he's gotten to go with me to do different things, and he thrifted with me one day, and if I'd had the strength I would have videoed a little bit of it, but it was taking my 100% full attention just to make sure that he was safe and engaged, which mercifully every time I go in a thrift store with Dean, he's not easily, with the right toy he can be completely engaged and stay engaged for 20 or 30 minutes, which is ridiculously long amount of time for a child to stay interested in the same object, the same item, you know. But anyway, continuing. Okay, now I'm going to share with you some of the things that I have thrifted recently. There's a ton more that maybe I'll get to soon, but this was the most recent little batch of things. Look at this quilt. Paid $25 for it because it was gorgeous and it was in really good condition. This was found in a Jacksonville thrift store, and I did pay $2 for it because I've never seen Broadman comments. Of course, I see Broadman hymnals very frequently, but not a Broadman comments. I've never seen any commentary book like that from 1959. I'll actually read a little bit in that. I'm super interested to see what their ideas are. There are actually 2 of these boxes. One is gray and not as pretty as the brown one, so I'm just showing you the one. I think I paid $5 for that. I wouldn't know what it was except look at that. I wish the old home movies were still in it from the 40s and 50s. Would that be 8mm reels? I don't know, but Mr. Hugh Hush embossed his name on a little plate and put it in there. I was just fascinated with that. Thought that was really cute. That also came from Jacksonville. Lots of these things did because that's one of the most recent things I did this past week. $2. You know, I have a few of these little chairs, and my vintage dolls are just adorable sitting in these. So I plan to put those gathered together as a collection, all sitting in little chairs. Now, all of these items came from that same day in Jacksonville. Okay, look, the nutcrackers, very ornate, and I don't believe I've ever seen. I don't know if someone painted them after the fact or what, but they've got, well, there's that red mark. That's a 1 for $1. Anyway, I'd never seen any nutcrackers that were that embossed and carved and pretty. Isn't that adorable? Little tiny thing. It's not the right scale for my dollhouse, which I'll be glad to get back to my dollhouse. It's kind of buried right now under stuff that still needs to go out to the she shed, but I thought that looked very vintage and adorable and was only $1.79. Thought that was very sweet. I don't remember what they charged me for this. I think $3. It didn't have a price tag on it. But the little spots on it, is that not sweet? Good for fall, good for Christmas. That little linen handkerchief, gorgeous. I'll show you a close-up here in a minute of that. This bowl, now, that's pretty old for $1.49. And it does have a little chip on the bottom, which I didn't see till I got home. I really didn't notice it. But what I did see at the checkout when I was putting it up on the counter to be tallied up, I saw that chip and I said, "Oh, I didn't see that chip." And the girl looked at it and she said, "Well, if you still want it, I'll give it to you for 50 cents. So I got it for 50 cents and I'll just turn that bowl around to the back where the chip doesn't show. And look at the beautiful little tiny details on that handkerchief. I just love that. That's just the best rustic homemade thing. Okay, this ended up being 25 cents because it was in a big bin of it just said assorted items, like, and it had some scarves in there and it had some really ugly stuff that wasn't good at all, but I liked it. Somebody spent a long time crocheting that. Look how pretty that quilt is. It's just so pretty. I love it so much. Okay, I'm obviously reaching off screen to get some more stuff. Okay, this was a set of 4 beautiful little lithograph prints with the frames, and they were each $1. These were actually in a great big wooden trolley of things that were just not put onto the shelves yet. And by the way, that huge one, I can't remember the name of it. It was maybe the biggest thrift store I've ever been in my life. It's enormous. I mean, huge. But look at all these prints. Is that not wonderful? I loved that. Okay, so I love the blue and white little, you can see some have come loose from their frames, which is fine because I'm going to do a little something to the frames. I guess that's the original condition, but I think I want the frames darker. There's pretty fruit and a lovely pottery. Beautiful little strawberries with a pewter pitcher. They've got a crack and a chip in that bowl. They must have known that I'm not offended by paint, cracks and chips. Now look at that. I thought that was adorable. It's gold. Did these come in gold originally? Well, I don't know, but for $1.49, I felt like that was something very original that I would like to have. Now, Ella, seriously, every time she's wanting this last bite. Okay, go ahead, and you got some cellophane too. There you go. Mercy. All right. These plates were just gorgeous. You can really tell a quality bone china when you see the way it's painted and the way it shines. It just has a depth to it. Not familiar with this maker, but I'll tell you what really sold me on these for $1 each. They got that wax pencil mark across it. Do you see that? Made in occupied Japan. It was really hard to get it to focus on that, but my sister Lisa has informed me that occupied Japan is less frequently found than There you go. It's clearer here than just made in Japan, which china that's made in Japan is usually higher quality than if it just says made in, China, made in China. And I found little tiny dessert plates and some saucers. I looked so hard to see if there were any cups or full-size plates to go with those, but didn't find any of those. And then that little dessert plate or bread and butter plate. Beautiful, made in occupied Japan. Just beautiful. Okay, this little stool that looked very old to me didn't have a price tag on it, and at the register they told me $3. And let me just show you what it does. Look, isn't that cute? This little chair made just for me so I can sit and watch TV. It sounds like the 1950s or 60s. Precious. And whether I use it as a stool or a chair or just a very cute little riser, you know, you could put so many vintage cute things on both levels of that, and it would just be adorable. Just adorable. So cute. And there's just a little pan of things as I'm showing you this yard sale find. Now, you know I love Vera Bradley. This is one of their weekender bags. It was literally still stiff, as if it had just come off the assembly line. $5. I didn't need it, especially, but I've been using it some because it's cute. And I also got a lovely package of Vera Bradley from a precious viewer. She sent me a box full of lovely Vera Bradley, mostly new or gently used. Beautiful things. Thank you so much, dear girl. I am so impressed and I love them so much. All right, that little artificial thing for $4.50. This wallpaper, pre-pasted, beautiful wallpaper, red toile, $6. These items here in this next little bit are all items that I purchased from the store when I thought it was half price day, but I got to thinking about it, and I would have paid what I paid for each of those items anyway, because I think they're worth it. Because that wallpaper, it's expensive, and you hardly ever see toile wallpaper. Okay, I don't know what that Tupperware thing is. You'll have to help me decide what it was used for. You'll see the inside of it here in just a second. Here I am, filming with one hand and trying to do things with the other hand. I'm not doing the best. Look at that. Look at the cut work on that. Beautiful. You'll see it in just a second. There it is for 50 cents. I mean, I thought I was getting it for 25 cents, but it's definitely worth 50 cents. Just so pretty. Little hanky or napkin. Just gorgeous. Couple of fall colored candles, taper candles, 50 cents. I thought I was getting them for 25 cents, but you know, I'm still okay with having paid 50 cents. And you know, I can get attached to things when they're in my buggy. I didn't want to put anything back. And there's my receipt that I was so shocked that it was going to be $22. I was like, what? I'm so silly. All right, what is that little thing? It looks like a thing that would keep your veggies elevated from moisture. I don't know. You can let me know in the comments if you know what that specifically is for. But I thought it looked good. All right, this men's flannel shirt was just perfect to do. Okay, this is now at a different thrift store. It's not the same thrift store. But at this thrift store, it was half price for the blue tags, so I ended up paying $3. Now, I'm going to make it into that vest because I just thought that was an actually adorable thing. Okay, look at this little bundle. Very old canning funnel. Very old. I think that swirly thing is an egg separator. And there's also a very old little, oh gosh, what is that? Sifter? Strainer? Haven't even taken it out of the plastic, but that was a good price for those little items. And look at these. $2.98. for each of these carved wood little swans. Look how pretty. This one has his nose up, and this one has his nose down for $2.98. Just adorable, just cutiful, so cute. Same thrift store, also for $2.98 each. These little dogs who look exactly like the 1940s dogs that I love to collect. But look, that stamp looks very recent. But you know what? I bought them anyway because I almost never find a little matching pair. You know, I realize they're not the same dog as a Staffordshire dog, which I couldn't afford an original set of those anyway. But look how cute. And they're not actually sitting in opposite positions, but I just couldn't resist because you know I love the 1940s dogs. And for 98 cents, I have never have I ever seen a little tiny cheese crock. It is plastic, it's not actual crock, but it looks so much like the ceramic ones that once I put it up on my shelf that's up around the top of my kitchen, I think it will be adorable sitting on the very end. Now here are some glimpses of my shed, of what it's been looking like in the summer, and I have gone ahead and been adding a few things that are not, they're not officially staged or displayed or anything like that. Look at that weird long rack. I paid $8 for that because instantly I could imagine all my vintage 1940s kitchen stuff on it. And we've put furniture and stuff in the middle, trying to keep the walls open, somewhat open, so that the insulation and the interior walls can be put in. But we just couldn't do any of this stuff. Just couldn't. Back windows back there still not installed. It was too hot all summer. Very busy all summer. But 98 degrees is too hot for people of mine and my husband's age to be out running around. Now I've done just a tiny bit of fall decor, and so here's just a little sampling of what I have done. The top of my piano all summer has had my grandmother's china. Doris shared with me beautiful hazel sayo pattern. Now I've had that lamp there a while. That's the same lamp, but I did switch out the artwork that was there. I love that print. I don't know what month that is. There's a month for every month of the year. And then my little beautiful brass deer. And there's the little Board of Education paddle. And just little simple pumpkins. And I love that print. I dearly love that fall print up there. I haven't come upon fall season since finding that little vintage jewel. So I put acorns and pine cones on top of Spanish moss in there with him. There's that wrought iron thing holding a book back there. There's a little old-timey stand-up travel clock. And a vintage book open to a page that I thought was very sweet. Look at the grandmother. Isn't she sweet? She's so sweet. And you might recognize the candle stand that I have the little cabbage bowl on. The candle stand was from Montgomery. Found that one in Montgomery. And as I swing around, you can see that these are the French doors that go out onto my back patio. And this is my foyer, which I just did a few things. I did a little switch out. I had my jadeite plates up there and very spring looking things. I didn't change anything about my typewriter yet. I think I will. But look, that's a precious little thing found in Ellijay, Georgia. That same shelf is there. The tiny little cups, they look like enamelware, but they're not. They came from Hobby Lobby. The little orange metal platter came from a thrift store locally. Look how sweet. Those really look like enamelware, but they're not. I've got a matchbox that I had just Mod Podged some vintage labels onto, just for fun. And I love that wool garland that came from Hobby Lobby. Now Ben ordered for me the little acacia wood bowls, a set of 4 tiny ones and a set of 4 larger ones. So cute. And that's all for now. I pray blessings over all of you. Thank you so much for being precious and sweet and exactly who you are. I pray the Lord blesses you richly